So, a very warm welcome to all the viewers today. Today, on Marketing Beyond Borders by Bot Space, we are joined by someone who lives at the crossroads of leadership, personal growth, and digital change. Michael Tabirade, who is a program management consultant who's been driving transformation in the NHS and beyond. So, a very warm welcome to you, Michael. I believe you're a mentor, speaker, and a big believer in building your personal brand. Michael, welcome to the show again.
Thank you very much, Rakai. I really do appreciate the invite.
Thank you so much. So let's just begin with an icebreaker question for you, Michael. Your career touches everything from digital health to personal branding. So, what actually pulled you into this unique mix?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, initially I thought I wanted to be an architect, and that
Okay.
was something that was driven by my late grandma. But I did some work experience and realized actually it's not for me. And so I started to explore medicine. And essentially, I realized over the years, trying to get into medicine through various different programs and stuff, that I wasn't really attracted to that industry, but I did like the fact that I could be a manager and help individuals really better position the NHS in a better position. But whilst I was doing that stuff, alongside it, I learned more about entrepreneurship. I learned more about marketing. I learned more about sales. And I realized that in order for you to stand out, it's about how you communicate and create the right perception and associations, which is really your personal brand. And so I went on this journey on developing a brand over the years in order to help position me better for opportunities. So that's how that mix came into play.
All right, that's pretty interesting. Also, Mayor, I have a personal question for you. I see that you're a LinkedIn top voice. So, how has that journey been, and how have you been able to achieve that, Michael?
That's an interesting question. I'll surprise myself. But essentially, back I think it was 2022, 2023. I went on the journey of wanting to essentially try LinkedIn. I tried it before, but I didn't really try it. And so I went on a journey of posting every single day and essentially posting things centered around the lessons that I've learned in my career, the education and the pros and cons of contracting and consulting, and really talking about how people can feel empowered and build the right level of resilience in the current socioeconomic climate that we're in right now. So I was posting every single day. And as a result of that, I believe, at least anyway, I started to get more engagement and I got recognized by LinkedIn as a top voice, which is all centered around the whole consulting space and everything else. That's pretty much what the strategy was. It wasn't anything sophisticated. It was me writing notes on my phone. And literally in the morning at like 6 o'clock, 6:37, I would post it, and then that would be my daily routine. And then I would add sort of like personal images or pictures just to get more of a sort of like personal touch with what I'm saying.
All right, indeed. So, what I understand is consistency and then your personal touch to it, actually giving in some value is something that has really worked in this domain. Pretty
Correct.
interesting.
Correct.
Now, coming to our next segment where we'll talk about making change that actually makes sense, which is again a part of your role very often, Michael. So, you've worked on like big picture projects in healthcare. How do you turn complex changes into something people actually get behind?
It's a really good question. And it comes down to really understanding the right approach that needs to be taken when it comes to big complex change. So I've had training in managing successful programs and I've also had training in change management. And so with those two sort of approaches, the first is about how do you govern a program? How do you make sure there's the right level of accountability? How do you ensure that people actually deliver? That's the first thing. So that's like the management side. But then the change management side is understanding that not many people like change. And so it's removing myself from being super professional and being human in how I communicate. So it's sitting down with those people who are affected by change and making sure I take into consideration the things that they're concerned about and helping them alleviate any sort of fears so they understand exactly how this may benefit them in the future. And so this comes down to a bit of an education piece, sitting down with people one to one or one to many, doing some level of training, and then after that training, doing a level of implementation, all together with these individuals who are feeling sort of like probably apprehensive, anxious, or scared for change. And then usually what happens is you get one who understands, and I kind of work with that individual to get the others to sort of like jump on board as well. So it takes time, but it's treating people as human beings.
Perfect, perfect. That makes complete sense. So, Michael, when it comes to handling this change again, what could be one lesson that marketers can steal from this NHS approach when it comes to managing change or communicating change to the audiences?
Yeah, I think one thing that is really key is ensuring that you do some level of co-design. And that's really big within places like the NHS, public sector, et cetera, et cetera. And what I mean by that is if you have a key or target audience, it makes sense to understand what their pains and desires are and work with them to design a solution that is going to make it easier for everyone else, that creates the benefits that are realized. So it's sitting down with your audience, being extremely clear of what their pains and desires are. Don't assume anything. And then going back to the data to understand what the market wants to provide a solution that makes sense. And then you just iterate from there.
I completely echo on that. So yeah, marketing is often a combination of an art and science wherein, everything has to be backed by data. So yeah, that could
Correct.
definitely be one thing. Another thing that I have learned or seen across on your journey on LinkedIn is that you give a lot of importance to personal branding or building a personal brand. Now, when it comes to deal with fields like whether tech or health, how important do you think personal branding is?
Yeah, within the space is important because if you are responsible for helping building an infrastructure or doing some sort of digital transformation, people need to feel like they trust you. And so building a personal brand creates the right level of trust, relatability, likability, whatever you want to call it. And so the more you are able to present yourself in that way before you actually start working with these individuals, the better it's going to be in terms of cultivating a strong relationship. And so this is why whatever personal brand you create, it needs to be sincere, it needs to be authentic, it needs to be integral, because there will be some people who will do a deep dive in trying to understand you as a person to see if you're the right person for the job, in addition to everything else. So obviously, your personal brand is not just what people see online. It's your qualifications, your vocational studies, it's your experience, it's your expertise, it's how you dress, it's how you speak, it's how you communicate. So understanding yourself as much as possible and seeing how people perceive that really helps. So when we're coming into the whole digital space or health space, then people feel as if, okay, this person knows what they're talking about, is conducive to the type of things that I would expect to see for somebody who would help me achieve my digital health aims or whatever it may be. So it needs to align. Whatever your personal brand is, it needs to align to the target audience or the thing that you're looking to achieve.
Perfect. That makes sense. You need to echo with your audience to be able to, relate to them and fit into their routines or have that kind of consistency. On that note, if you had to give a piece of advice to someone who wants to build this brand but not look very salesy or, pokey in the entire environment, what could they do?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, if you look on YouTube right now, you'll see a lot of people who are producing what I'm calling very raw and authentic types of content. And so, with that in mind, it is allowing people to get to know the individual much better. But even with these individuals doing this stuff, they're doing what I call is soft selling. Okay, I didn't come up with it, but the soft sales pitch is, you
Mhm.
know, if you are interested in learning more about how to become a contractor, you can check out my link below. It's not forceful, it's very light, it's very subtle. But the selling is not necessarily closing. And I think that's what people get confused with. The selling is in the development of the relationship that that person builds with you. And so if you produce things where people can feel connected to you authentically and get to know you, then you don't have to sell. You've pre-sold them because you've been in a position where you've educated them, you've empowered them, and you've been able to entertain if that is something that you do. So the selling happens beforehand. In addition to that, though, what I would say is there has to be an element of practice. So you have to be clear about, okay, how do you handle understanding someone's initial pains? Then you have to understand how do you manage their specific desires that they're trying to achieve? How do you close that gap? We call it a gap analysis in program management. It's the same setup as a blueprint that we produce and develop. And so when you're able to sort of like bring people through that journey, which is essentially just coaching, it's nothing else, then Once everything has been spoken about, you ask for permission in terms of whether they're happy to provide, whether they're happy into whether they want support or help in relation to what they want solved, and you wait for them to respond, and then you can talk to them about, different options or offers that you may potentially have. So I see it as coaching. I see it as you're being yourself, nothing too crazy, but practicing does help. You don't want to create too much pressure around it.
Pretty much there. Yes, another integral piece of advice. Coming to our next set, I personally believe that mindset is the real marketing, and mindset is pretty much important. Now, that brings me to my next question. You coached a number of people on mindset, confidence, and purpose. So, how does that tie to how we market ourselves or lead others when in an organization?
Yeah, so mindset is defined as the established set of attitudes that a person has. And so if you have a type of attitudes which are embedded, i.e., established, then that defines your behaviors. It's that simple. And so if we think about any sort of outputs or results or success that one has, it is dependent upon their behaviors. And so we have to start with mindset. And so, if you cultivate the right mindset, which is heavily adopted by the people that you speak to, the environments that you're in, then it's going to affect things like your business actions that you take and your leadership. So, for me, leadership is centered around a framework, which I call the five pillars of mastery. So, there is audacious authenticity. So, it's being a person who is brave about being their sincere selves. The second thing is crystal clarity, is having the ability to be super clear about what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve, and who you're trying to become. Then there's considered communication. How you communicate is everything, and that's really embedded around emotional intelligence and social intelligence. The fourth thing is centered around voracious vitality. So that's the energy you carry. That's how you look after your nutritional, physical, and spiritual health. And finally, you've got perceptive persuasion, how people view you. I say this to say, linked to mindset, if you establish these behaviors in the right way, you're going to be a strong leader, not only for yourself, but for others in your organization. Hopefully, I've answered your question.
Yes, indeed, that was pretty much perfect. Going to a little more of a futuristic talk there. People nowadays, are looking for more meaning at work these days. So, how can brands, personal or business, actually reflect that, making work more meaningful for their employees or for their, colleagues?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, it's a hard one to answer, but what I can say is that, you know, um, 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years ago, there was a strong sense of community.
Mm-hmm.
And this community may have been established through religious institutions or through the fact that there was funding through local authorities or whatever it may be. And gradually, what's happened is we've moved from a community based society to a very individual based society where, due to capitalism and everything else, there is a lot of focus on money and production. And so, what workplaces can do is start to cultivate community again, start to create an environment where it's not just about the 9 to 5, but it's about helping people feel mentally secure, maybe even spiritually secure, giving people the tools and means to develop in their roles together as a unit. Finding places for individuals to do extracurricular activities. So there is a sense of meaning. And so the person isn't just attached to work, they're also attached to the fact that there is a lifestyle that is being built up. Another thing that comes into play is that when it comes to workplaces, they need to think about process, culture, and behavior. And so, process is really the management of things. How is your management style affecting how people work? Is it driving people away or is it driving people towards you? Because, of course, high leaders and managers are heavily, influenced by stakeholders or investors. Then you've got culture. What is leadership doing to embed the right sort of like culture? And so your recruitment process has to be on point to bring in the right type of people. And then you've got behavior, which is obviously a combination of all of those things. I say this all to say that this creates more meaning because if you have a boss that you like and you have a place that has good policies and that you have community within a space, you're going to want to go to work because it's more than just getting a paycheck. You want to be in that environment. So creating an environment that people actually want to go to and is listening to their employees to understand how they can actually do these things.
That's pretty much on point. On another note, Michael, where do you see digital leadership and brand building going in the next few years? I mean, with the advent of AI, with artificial intelligence being into picture, and so much of digitalization everywhere, where do you think we're going in the next few years?
Yeah, so it's very clear that there's going to be a heavy reliance on AI technologies, maybe even blockchain, to be honest with you, to
Mhm.
authenticate different sort of things. But as that continues to happen, and as there is more conditioning around how AI is prompted through agentic tools, robotics, etc., there is going to be a deeper need for human connection. There's going to be a deeper need for wanting something that feels a bit more authentic. So we all use ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever we use. And, it's great for the initial first step, okay, in terms of brainstorming, creating frameworks, ideas, documents, all this kind of stuff there. But for the expert, for the person who truly understands that domain that they're trying to get information for, they'll realize that there are holes in the argument. And so, with that in mind, there will be a clear divide between those who just fully rely on it and the experts who make the AI even better or may not even use it at all. There may be some people who are like, in fact, I don't trust the AI. And therefore, I only trust in the experience and expertise of an individual. So I think we will see a divide. There'll be more people centered towards the AI stuff because, again, it's ease of use, but there will be a small select group of individuals who are attracted to the humanistic side of things. And actually, that may be a saving grace, which may incorporate things centered around AI regulation potentially, or how we monitor and manage things, what that looks like in terms of governments, etc., etc. But coming back to the personal brand element, we're seeing it right now. People are using AI to produce their content, and you can really see the difference between those individuals who have tweaked it or they have written it themselves versus just AI. I see it all the time. You see the hyphen that is long, the long dash, or you see the AI say the truth is, or there's certain words and things that are said
Right.
that is so clear that is AI. So I think people will quickly see those things and know whether they can actually trust that person or whether this person is out to make a quick buck down the line. So it comes back to this sincere stuff again. It will be harder to do because there'll be so much content being pushed out as an example of producing your personal brand. But it's important for us to recognize the human element, and showing that human side is going to be more important.
I completely agree on that. Yes, so there has to be a perfect balance or a blend between AI and personalization or the human touch, which would be much more required. That brings me to my next question. Another tool or technology which is currently pretty much booming and it's there with us on all our phones is WhatsApp. So, what is your perspective when it comes to brands, whether personal or businesses, of using WhatsApp to connect with their audiences or with their customers, and having a more frequent conversation with them? How do you think that would work?
Yes, it's a great one. I think it really comes down to the goals of the personal brand. So, for example, if you're somebody who believes heavily in community, which is something that a lot of people are talking about right now, then sharing some sort of WhatsApp group is going to be important, as an example, or Telegram group as an example. And so, there are two facets to this. Do you produce it in a way where it's one directional, where you just do broadcasts? Or do you do it in a way where people can engage with you? And of course, the engagement piece may require a monetary aspect only because it requires your time if you're going to be invested. Okay. And so, there are many different individuals who create WhatsApp groups. It's like £10, £5, £50, £20 a month for a certain type of information. And then there are other people who just create things for free. So it's all an attempt to get closer to helping an individual solve their problems or think they can at least solve their problems. So it really cries to this whole fact of a deeper sense of connection that we're looking for. Like I said initially before, there is this closer sort of movement towards individualism, but at the same time we're fighting back to try and create this certain level of community. And WhatsApp is one example and one way in which they're doing that. And of course, as you know already, WhatsApp has created multiple different functions and ways to manage groups better, and many different groups. There's the AI function that's been released as well, which may be another sort of like facet which may help these personal brands manage different cohorts and WhatsApp groups.
That was a great one again, Michael. This probably brings me to my last question. It was a very interesting and a different kind of conversation that we had, and we could touch to many different aspects. Now, for our audiences, Michael, if there was one part or one piece of advice that they can take from the entire session that they should not be missing, what would that one element be, which, should be something that everybody should watch from our entire discussion today?
Yeah, I think if you are producing your personal brand with the aim to monetize, you there is a process to this, and it's about employing some level of scientific method or having some level of first principles. What do I mean by this? The ultimate question you have to start off with is, who do I want to become? That's the first question. Because once you start answering that question, then you start to answer, okay, based on this person, who am I helping? That's the first thing. You have to have a clear idea of what that looks like. What problem am I helping them solve? Okay. And then once you understand that, you need to understand whether there is a market for the thing that you're aiming to solve. So once you have product market fit, maybe I don't know, you're testing this through content, or you're testing this through speaking to people who you believe have these issues, or whatever it may be. Maybe you're doing a self reflection on yourself. You have to have an intimate relationship with it. And so once you do that and you get your answers that you need, you want to get to a point where you look at your surroundings and look at everything that promotes you as a brand. And you say to yourself, does what I have at the moment truly reflect what I'm trying to portray based on the research and what the market is saying? You make changes, you ask people, you iterate. And so once you have that, then you go on a crusade of getting attention. You get attention. So if it's online, maybe you do YouTube. I'm doing daily YouTube challenges right now. You can go and check it. I started on the 1st of February and I've done it every single day. So you can see that's an example. I'm getting great feedback and data. Other examples, maybe you're not online. So maybe you need to go to events. Are what you saying getting a visceral reaction from your target audience? Do people recognize you? What do you need to learn? What do you need to pitch? Because the next stage after audience through that attention is then developing the right trust so you can then make a sales pitch, or you can get sales, or whatever it may be. Maybe that's through lead magnets and then eventually some sort of product or service. Maybe that is a direct, whatever it may be. So the point being made is, it starts from that first question, and every single point affects another. You can't just start with one and that's that. And if that works for you, you're lucky. But you need to understand the cogs and wheels and systems behind how you produce an effective and powerful personal brand.
That was indeed something that I would implement myself as well. It was great talking to you, Michael. Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure the audience is going to highly benefit from this, and they're going to take up glimpses and advices from all over the place. Once again, on behalf of Podspace, I would like to thank you so much, and I would look forward to publishing this video and having the audience view it again.
Thank you very much, Rakai, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Michael. Bye bye. Have a great one.
You too. Bye. Bye. Bye.